the dot. So I check and I see Jennifer Daniels' video is turned on, but I don't see her there. So hopefully she'll be back in a minute. That's all right. Oh, there she is. No need to rush. I'm going to go over a couple of updates for everybody. So I've had a busy week. I was down in Rehoboth for the first session of Class 5 of Lead Delaware. That was really a lot of fun. I had a great time with that group, but I'm looking forward to working with them over the next 2 years on their leadership skills and learning about Delaware agriculture. I had hoped that I would have had time while I was down there to multitask a little bit and have a copy of our stakeholder needs assessment to put up on the screen and show you. And unfortunately, I didn't get that done yet, but I'm hoping that I will maybe have something that can be shared with the DW that will go out later today, or if not today, we'll get it out to everyone early next week. We have a great group working on that. Tracy Wooden, Gina Christ, Jared Miller, and Karen Johnston. And they have really just been so helpful looking at the materials we've gotten from other states and made some edits. So we're going to have something for you guys to share because we do want to get your input on that. But we want to start moving forward so we can get that out in a survey format and get feedback from our stakeholders. So please be on the lookout for that. One of the other administrative updates I wanted to share with you guys, if you didn't see it, Allie Connor has a whole bunch of apparel under her box, under her desk in a box outside of Michelle Rogers' office area. It's things that people mistakenly ordered or didn't fit them. And we included a list of all of the items that are up for grabs. We are asking that you pay for it. But we'd like to clear that out because we want to be able to do a new apparel order for the summertime before the state fair. So please look at that list. I'm going to repeat it in the DW. If it's not something that you want, maybe it's something that you want to give to a family member or a coworker or as a gift at some sort of event for a good volunteer or a helper. So please look over what's there, and hopefully we can help her clear out that backlog of shirts and hats and things like that. Actually, I don't think there's any hats. It's mostly jackets and shirts. Some of those things are fleece, which would be good for a cold day like today. And the last thing I wanted to mention before introducing our speaker for today is we do have a couple of spots left for the story map training with Shane Bratt. It's on Valentine's Day. That's the day that has space available. So that's Wednesday, February 14th. So if anyone is interested and you want to get in on that and you haven't signed up already, please go ahead and do so. I will repeat the Doodle link for that in the DW today also. And then Shane's coming in on the evening of the 13th. He's going to be taking Delaware Express shuttle and getting dropped off at his hotel here in Dover. If there's anyone around you and you want to maybe go to dinner with him on the 13th or the 14th, which I realize is Valentine's Day, and you may have plans with your family or significant other, let me know and I'll try to set that up for him so he's not all by himself. But I don't think he's desperately worried about having company either. So if you're around in the Dover area and you want to hang out with our guest a little bit longer and pick his brain about some of these things, let me know and I'll help set that up. So I think with that, I'm ready to turn things over. At this point, all of the 2017 reporting has been done, and you guys hopefully have all heard and been following up on what we've asked you to do for 2018 planning, and that's doing a parity assessment of your participation data. So for Jennifer Daniels' background, we have asked all of our staff to look at the data that they've reported on their participation contacts, their direct contacts, and the demographics that they've reported, the race and ethnicity. Take that information and then compare it to the target audience they're trying to reach. So whether that's the demographics of the county that they're working in or a particular sector. And we've said if you're not reaching your target audience in that parity, to try to come up with ideas for how they're going to bridge that gap in 2018. And we've asked everyone to put a statement in their 2018 plans. But I think this presentation is going to help them. They may need to go in and adjust that statement because maybe folks don't really know what they could or should be doing. So this is perfectly timed. It's going to help people figure out how to bridge that gap from what they've been getting in participation and to where they need to go. So with that, Jennifer, I'm going to turn things over to you. Jennifer Daniels, everyone, we've had her on First Fridays before. She does a great job. She's with our Office of Equity and Inclusion, and today she's going to tell us about how to try to recruit diverse participants and applicants. So thank you, Jennifer.
Awesome. Can you guys see me right now?
I can see you right now.
Okay, we're great.
Everybody else likes to stay hidden.
Okay.
But they're always invited and encouraged to turn their cameras on. Oh, so Nancy, I'm wearing red today too for Heart Health Awareness Day, right? So
Allison.
health, you should show yourselves.
Yes, and
equals green. But
you guys, I just want to show you. I have your fave. I have Alice here on the side just to help me get situated. So we're good to go. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Okay, so the show is yours.
Yep. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just share my screen right now so you guys can. Okay, perfect. Excellent. Okay, and let me just get the presentation mode going. All right, thank you, Alice. Okay, guys, so I am very happy to see you again, no pun intended, because I can't see you. However, I'm glad to be talking with you guys and connecting with you once again to really talk about some important stuff. Now, just as a typical disclaimer, if you remember from the last time, I will be checking the chat frequently as we go through this hour. So if you guys have questions along the way, if you want to stop me as we're going, I will pull to the side just to check the chat. If you don't want me to announce your question openly, which I won't, I don't have to say your name, then just send me a private chat. Anything you're not comfortable asking amongst the group, send me a follow-up email, send me a private chat, and we can discuss that one-on-one. So that's no problem. So let's jump right in. When Jen reached out to me, she definitely kind of gave me some background on letting me know that you all were looking for ways to really recruit diverse participants for your programs and even applicants as it relates to hiring. So we're going to do a little mesh of that all together and talk about ways that we can really diversify our populations, diversify our units, and so on and so forth. So let's jump right in. And quickly, just as a quick overview, what are we going to discuss today? We're going to get into specifically what are the driving forces for why we're doing this work and why the diversity is important to us. So I'm going to just get into what our UD values and goals are. There's some changes with that, so I want to share that with you all. We're going to go into next, what are some active steps that we can take towards inclusion? How can we make sure that we're diversifying our programs and diversifying our units and organizations? We'll go into what recruiting looks like for diverse participants and job applicants, as well as what are some of the things that we may be inadvertently doing, okay, that would deter people from not only coming to our programs or coming to our organizations, but keeping them there. I thought someone had a question. That's okay. I heard a sound, but that's okay. We'll keep going. Next, we cannot speak about advertising or connecting to diverse populations without speaking about bias. So we're going to touch on that briefly and talk about what the implications for our workspace and workplace is, as well as leaving you guys with some additional resources and ways or people that you can contact should you need more help and you're looking for more information. So let's jump right in now. Okay, I'm going to move this little video here so I can see all of my points. Okay, great. So first and foremost, since President Asanis came into play with our campus community and with our university, he set up 4 pillars, okay, of our values, which are essentially going to be the foundation for everything that we do within the university. And those 4 pillars are academic freedom, diversity and inclusion, innovation, and community. Specifically, this relates to your department as it relates to diversity and inclusion and community outreach, right? You guys are going to be doing a lot of work there. You're looking to diversify, again, your populations and participants. And so this is really a guiding force and essentially what everyone is doing within the university and following behind. So that's something important to say and to make people aware of. These are things that you can also include in your own work. So keep that in mind. We'll touch base on that a little bit more as we continue to go through the presentation. We have the website here down at the bottom. I don't know if you guys can see my clicker moving, but yes, please check that out for more detailed view of what our values are and what the president is charging us to do on with our campus community. And so this really ties in next into our diversity action plan, or if you will, our strategic plan for diversity, which is inclusive excellence. That's the name of it. Not a lot of people are aware, or I've met people that are not aware. What is inclusive excellence? That's our diversity action plan. Now, what we're saying here is that it is an essential and fundamental value, and it's part of our mission and identity for the university. And we want this weaved into every single thing that we do, from our work with students and employees, faculty and staff, all the way down to the types of program and curriculum for those of you that may be faculty or teaching with students, to the culture and climate that we're maintaining, not only within our campus community, but outside our campus community as well, which again, we're gonna talk about that as we go through this presentation. So again, remembering that this is just a guiding force to our work, what we're trying to do, and essentially trying to elevate our campus as it relates to connecting to others that are different than ourselves. So now let's go into what can we do to ensure we have diverse participants and job candidates. Now, I'm breaking this down into 3 sections, and we're going to expand on each of these sections a little bit more as we continue to go through. But that first piece of what we can do to ensure we have diverse participants and job candidates is ensuring that our candidates and our participants understand that we value diversity, and in which ways. That's very, very important, and we're going to talk about that in further detail in our next slide. Stepping outside of your comfort zone. If you want to have new results, or if you want new results and you want different people to be engaged with you, that means you're going to have to do things that are different than what you're accustomed to. So stepping outside that comfort zone and changing the way, or the way that you're engaging or marketing or advertising to your outside populations as you try to bring people into the fold of your unit. The next piece in this, which is really huge and usually goes under the radar, using inclusive language. And we're going to talk about that in great detail to really help you understand, just in the way that we communicate with others and connect with others, is going to have a huge effect on whether people will stay at our programs or even come to our programs. So I'm hoping that I can bring a couple of things to light, maybe that you already know or that you are not aware of, but nonetheless imperative for you working with diverse populations. So let's start at the very beginning. How do we engage a diverse population? When we are trying to diversify our participants and our employees, we have to show the value that we value diversity. That is so huge. And there's a couple of ways that you can do that. The first piece in that is ensuring that any statements, any values that you have, whatever your commitment to diversity is, it should be displayed everywhere that has your name, right? So your websites, your advertising materials, it's going to show your value in diversity. And if you don't have a value up on your website, quite simply start with the values that we have for the entire university community that I put on that previous slide. It's going to show that you're committed to this, right? And it's not all talk. It is something that we're ingraining into every facet of our work life, from connecting to others to working with our colleagues. And ways that we can do this are, one, going to show representation in marketing. Again, that sounds really trivial, like, oh, that's not a big deal, showing representation. And what do I mean by representation? When you have your marketing material, when you have your PowerPoints, when you have your presentation, ensuring that you are showing diverse individuals in your pictures. Something very small, but think about it in this way. Do you have women on your website? Do you have people of color? Do you have people that have visible disabilities? So and so forth. What that's going to do is connect someone that you're trying to connect to from a diverse population. It's going to allow them to say, wow, I see myself in this program. Wow, this program is for someone like me, because I'm showing up in their marketing materials. I'm represented in their marketing materials. I'm represented within their workshops. I see pictures of people that look like me, Representation is absolutely paramount to the type of work that we're trying to do. So ensuring that you have that in there and people can see a version of themselves within those pictures, that's a big deal. The next piece of this is going to be establishing trust and building authentic relationships with people. And that's very important. Whether it's building a relationship with the types of participants that you're trying to bring into your programs or recruit or hire, or building genuine relationships with that second party or third party that's connected to those participants that you want to help or seek out or bring into your organization. You want to show that this is a relationship in which I am trying to connect with an individual and offer a service or offer some type of assistance. And that's really going to come down to relationship building. So not just showing up, a small example, right, of building a relationship or establishing trust. Let's say you meet someone on the street and you're saying, hey, you know what, I think this would be a great program. Let me grab your email. Instead of passively waiting for them to show up to a program, it may mean doing additional follow-up, saying, okay, hey, you know, I met you. It was a pleasure to meet you yesterday. I wanted to send you information about this workshop or about this program. I think it could be really beneficial to you, so on and so forth. Something that small, as far as following up with someone, really helps establish rapport and build relationships with people. We can't expect, especially in this day and age, with social media and everyone doing a little bit of everything, going the extra step to establish a relationship with someone, follow up with them, check in with them, see how they're doing, offer them ideas or programs or things that you have coming up or down the pipeline is a great way to bring people into your organization or bring people into your programming and workshops. And then the last piece in this is authenticity and genuineness. And again, I know that this sounds very remedial to say something like this, but what can happen when we are trying to connect with people that are different than ourselves, we may often communicate in a way that we perceive them being able to communicate with us, right? And so instead of, so perfect example here that I can explain. If you meet someone that uses a lot of slang, right? And that can be any race, this is not specific, but you don't use slang, but then you try to use slang. Guess what, guys? Gig is up on that one. That's not authentically who you are. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Bring your present self, who you are, and be true to that. People are going to appreciate you being exactly who you are, irrespective of what your background or differences are. So really being yourself, being open to listening to the needs of others, answer questions, and don't assume that you know based on their identity, which again, we're going to get into that in the later on in the workshop. Don't assume that you know based on their identity what they need, what they want, and how they want to connect to your program. So really, again, establishing that relationship, being yourself is really the first start in engaging people that are not like you. So that's very important. And I think I have a question. Okay, no, we're going to keep going. I'll save that for the side. Let's keep going. So the next piece in this now is being able to step out of your comfort zone. So when you're looking to engage people, again, that are different from yourselves, and you're looking to pull from different populations, it does require an element of stepping outside of what you're comfortable with. And that's okay, right? We are creatures of habit. That's all of us. That's not specific, again, to gender or race or ability or sexuality. It's just a human trait. We like what we like. We kind of stay in our zone, and we like the structure of how we normally do things. But when we're trying to engage people, again, that are different than ourselves, we have to step outside of that zone of comfort. And the first place that we can do that is with the collaborations and the types of connections that we're making. So what does this mean? We're saying here, establish connections with community partners and individuals who serve the population you're seeking to work with. So again, this is thinking outside of the box. You may not know anyone from the population you're seeking to serve. However, you can connect yourself to people that do work with that population that you're looking to serve, or that you're looking to work with, or that you're looking to hire. And that's going to be really important here in collaborating and connecting with others. These are things that we cannot do on our own. And if you think about working with diverse populations, think about it as a network, right? There are people out there, there are organizations out there that are working with the groups that we're seeking to bring in to our programming, or into our own organizations. We need to seek those people out, right? They're almost going to be, I like to term it similar to a gatekeeper, if you will, right? So if people that come to me and say, hey, Jen, you know, I really want to work with your LGBTQ caucus, or I really want to work with your women's caucus, they're connecting to me because I'm going to be the vessel to that group when they do not have a natural or direct connection. So you want to think of it in that same way. Who are the partners? Who are the other organizations that are serving this demographic of people, or serving this population of people? And how can I connect to them? I'm going to just take a quick pause because I think there's a question and I don't want to miss anything as we go. Okay, no, we're okay, so we're going to keep going. So the next piece in this is going to places you wouldn't normally frequent to get information out about your organization or about the program that you're going to be throwing. And so when you think of this, think of community centers, right? Boys and Girls Club, YMCAs, even local churches. That's not something that most people would bring to the forefront, like, oh, I should go to a local church, or I should go to a local YMCA. But you have to remember, all walks of life are going to these types of organization, whether for resources, whether for religion, whether to work out. And oftentimes organizations or community centers, like the ones that I listed here, are going to advertise different programs and different events and things that they can engage their members with. So if you connect again to that vessel, that's going to give you an opportunity to connect to a population that you may not have a connection to. So community centers is a huge one here. Various professional organizations, okay? And again, I'm going to talk about this a little bit further in the workshop as we continue to go on. But this can, so if we're hiring, for example, perfect example, if we're hiring, and let's say I'm looking for a social worker. So I'm a social worker. I have my master's in social work. My national organization is the National Association of Social Workers, right? So in this instance, people like myself go to my professional organization for job opportunities, not just people that have their master's in social work, but people that even have their bachelor's in social work, where most of us are all connected to our professional organization. So this is going to advertise programming and different events that I can be educated on particular topics. It's going to advertise jobs and things that are in the area that I may not normally have access to, but because it's funneled through my professional organization, I have access to it. So really thinking outside the box there and connecting to those professional organizations within our area that can connect you to different people statewide is really going to be a great tip. Different places like the local libraries. Actually, people still read and people still go to the library. I know, surprise, surprise, but that's a great avenue, again, for you to advertise your different programming and workshops. And usually in these types of situations, you'll have a point person that will absolutely be open and willing to advertising or putting on the calendar different events that are happening in the area, particularly if they're free to the community, which I believe a lot of your events are free to the community. And then any other place the population you're seeking to work with would frequent, right? So thinking about where do they go, where do they get resources from, who are the people that give resources to this population, and that's who I'm going to connect to get information out about my program, about my event, about the things that we're doing with my unit or organization. So really thinking outside that box. And in most instances, perfect example, someone in my position here on campus, usually a lot of people use me as a funnel. Why? Because I'm connected to a multitude of populations on campus. So they'll send me different events that are geared towards first generation college student, or they'll send me lots of events that are geared toward employees that have disabilities. Why? Because I am a connector to these populations. So really thinking about who are your connectors? Who are the people that you can connect to in the community, outside community, that can help you really get the word out about the type of work that you're doing or the type of programs that you are throwing. Let's keep going. Okay, there we go. I was like, okay, maybe we're not going to keep going, but we are. We're going to keep going. And so the last piece in this is inclusive language. Why inclusive language matters? Why does it matter? Why is it important? First and foremost, your audience is listening to you, right? Not even at the workshop level, because once you get to the workshop, you've already stepped over a particular hurdle. But even being able to speak to someone in the community, on the street, about your different event, they're paying attention to what you're saying. They're paying attention to how you say it. So it absolutely is imperative that we're making sure we use inclusive language and not deterring people away from participating or engaging in our activities. So if you guys remember last year sometime, you might remember the phrase I talked about, microaggressions. I'm not going to get into that fully, but I'll give you a refresher very briefly. So a microaggression is a subtle insult toward someone's identity group, okay? And usually, if you remember correctly, a microaggression is not always said or done in a way to purposely insult someone. Usually there are things that we say that are seemingly innocuous, like, oh, that's not a big deal. I was trying to strike up conversation and be friendly. But as a result, we end up offending someone, right? Or we end up demeaning someone inadvertently. So a perfect example in this, okay, here, what would be a microaggression? Let's say that you guys are doing cooking or healthy eating or cooking course or class, and you happen to come across a woman and you say to her, you lead with, oh, well, yeah, you know, you're probably cooking for your family all the time and doing all of the cooking, so you should come out to this program. Again, on surface, that does not seem problematic at all, right? I'm trying to find a connection and broach a conversation in a way that would pull this participant in. But what if that woman doesn't cook? What if her husband does all of the cooking? What if she doesn't have a husband? What if she has a wife? I mean, again, we can't lead with assumptions. That's the point that I'm trying to make here. And something like that, that doesn't seem like a big deal, can be a way in which we turn people off from engaging with us. In that instance, another example, or even making connections with people based off of race and socioeconomic status. Right? So I'm going to share what I've had happen to me in an instance like this with programming, where someone has said to me, yeah, Jen, you know, you're African American, so, you know, you probably understand what it's like to, you know, grow up poor in the inner city. Actually, I don't. I have no idea what that life is like, right? I grew up in suburbia in a middle-class family, never struggled economically as an adolescent growing up. So when someone says something like that to me, again, leading with an assumption based on my race in this regard, that is something that's going to deter me from really wanting to be involved with that individual. Not saying that they did that purposely, not saying that they did that to be offensive, but understanding with your words, there's a difference between intention and impact. We need to be concerned with the impact of what we're saying here and what we're saying to others, and ensuring that in that little circle that you see here, that we're not leading our conversations in the way that we're connecting to people with assumptions. We cannot lead with assumptions. Our words may have an adverse impact on the people that are listening to us, even if it's in that first phase of, hi, my name is Jen, and who are you? And let's talk about my program. That matters. Those connections, that early stage of interfacing with someone absolutely matters. So what can we do? We want to show with our language that we are attentive and sensitive to the differences amongst our group. Okay, so something that seems so trivial, so small, not a big deal, can have a huge impact on whether or not people want to engage with you going forward or want to stay with you going forward. And I'll give you one more example of this, of a microaggression, again, which was done in a very non-aggressive, non-threatening, I'm not trying to offend you way. And I had to explain to someone else, like, this is why someone might take that offensively. So we had I'll call it person X, because I don't want to disclose who, where they came from or where they work, but they said to another employee, and trying to get to know them, because this employee was a Latino person, and they said, hey, so for Thanksgiving, does your family make tacos for Thanksgiving? This person was Costa Rican. Costa Ricans, tacos are not within the realm of the types of foods that they consume. So we had an individual who was trying to be friendly, trying to connect. Oh, does your family make tacos for Thanksgiving? Because this was around Thanksgiving time. And in essence, now that's an offense, because it's an assumption about Hispanic culture. When in actuality, what he probably should have said was, hey, so do you even celebrate Thanksgiving? And what does your family cook? Much better. Does that make sense? I hope it does. I can't get your guys' affirmation right now. However, if it doesn't, just shoot me a message so we can talk about it a little bit further. But again, the basis of this slide is helping you realize we don't want you to lead with assumptions in the way that you're connecting and talking to other people when you're interfacing in the community. And I think there is a comment, so just give me a quick second, guys. Sorry, I'm making all my faces because I'm trying to figure this thing out, and I don't think I can see the other. Okay, I'm gonna keep going for some. Okay, yes. Oh, thank you, Maria. She said it makes sense. I got it. Okay, thank you so much. Okay, let's keep going. Please excuse me, guys. All right, I'm sorry. I'm a little rough on the edges with this. I haven't done it since last year, but let's keep moving forward. So now, moving into specifically, how can we ensure that we are recruiting diverse populations? Where can we start? So there's two ways that we're going to focus on recruiting, and we can do that passively and we can do that actively, right? And so when we're talking about passive recruitment, okay, this is advertising widely and in diverse places. So we're just putting the information out there. We're not really being aggressive or active in trying to connect to others. We're just sending the information, and that's it. So this can start in our recruiting areas. So where are you holding your event, or where are the people, what area or region are you trying to pull people in from, and sending information out or putting it within those regions. That's an active way of, a passive way of connecting with diverse populations. And the same for the type of position that you may be hiring for, or the population that you're trying to work with. So this is saying, assess what the position is, or assess what the population is that with whom you're trying to work with, and then advertising accordingly based on that population. So as I said earlier, if you're looking for social workers, what niche or which industry can I connect to gain my social workers? So that might be going to NASW, the National Association of Social Workers, Delaware chapter, or so and so forth. And then LinkedIn, just having a presence on LinkedIn. And we're going to talk about this a little bit more, because what we're coming to find out, it is absolutely a fantastic tool for connecting not only employees or prospective employees, but being able to connect to broad audiences or people, participants that we want to be a part of our programs. So how do we do this actively now? How do we actively recruit? One, that's going to be using your personal networks. Who do you know? As I mentioned earlier in that slide, what community organizations, activists, leaders, social workers, resources can I connect to get this information out? How can I make a direct connection to them? Using your listserv. So if you guys have a website or an email chain, or if you're using, I think it's MailChimp in that instance, right? Having people sign up to your listservs, and they get monthly emails about what you're offering for that month. I know OEI, we just started doing that in September of last year, so this academic year, and it's been huge in being able to advertise our listings. So people can, of course, disengage from our listservs, but having that listserv and knowing monthly, this is what OEI is doing, has definitely increased participation in our workshops. So that's something that you also want to think about. And of course, I keep driving home the use of professional organizations. Now, when we're actively using LinkedIn, okay, we are advertising our events on there, because LinkedIn is not just to showcase your professional accolades. LinkedIn can also be used to showcase your programming, showcase what your organization is doing, make posts about, hey, we had a workshop last night, this many people showed up, thank you to everyone that came out, it was an awesome workshop, right? Or advertising, hey, we have a workshop coming up, and I'm gonna show you the connections on LinkedIn in a quick moment. But being actively involved in LinkedIn is going to broaden the base of people that you're able to connect to. Using Eventbrite, this is another, again, something that maybe you're already doing this, so please excuse me if I'm repeating something that you're already aware of, but I still like to bring it to everyone's attention. Eventbrite has all types of events on there, from that are going on in your local area, from events that you pay for to events that are free. And many people will go to Eventbrite and say, hey, I'm looking for different cooking classes or different programs. What's going on in my area this week? Even if you only gained 2 or 3 people from Eventbrite, it's a free service, that would be worth it. So think about that again, and trying to get your information out and connect to people that you wouldn't normally connect to. And then again, the same with the position or the position and population that you're looking to connect to. So how I talked to you earlier about following up with people, directly emailing them, giving a phone call, and reminding them about an event that you have going on or a position that you're looking to recruit in. So this is more than just sending the original outreach. This is following up with your outreach. Again, really going to help make connections, foster relationships, build relationships, and trust. So actively engaging and then using your network for referrals. So that may mean a perfect example in this, in the state of Delaware, we have our department, DFS, which is Department for Families and Children's Services. And it's not always people that are in need that are working with these organizations, but organizations like DFS connect to the community and provide resources on, hey, if you're trying to learn about this, if you need more information about this, here's a workshop that you can go to. There are great places to start and great ways to get connected to new people. So please keep that in mind. So going back to LinkedIn, because we're really going to focus here, and this is we were able to get this information from Human Resources because we do have a recruitment department that most people don't know. It's not brand new, but they've been expanding. So what was only a 2-person shop has now turned into 8 or 9 people in a department that are specifically geared towards recruiting and developing our employees or recruiting diverse populations. So when you're talking about LinkedIn, right now we're saying there are 484 million people that are connected to LinkedIn. 1.5 million are the total number of LinkedIn groups that are online. LinkedIn is currently available in 24 languages, and almost half of the people that are connected to LinkedIn use it daily. So that's huge. It's almost similar to any of our other social media platforms. Now, of course, this is the professional platform, but people are checking it daily to see what's going on around me. What events are people doing? What programs are people having? And how can I get connected to that? They have 2 new members, okay? Number of new LinkedIn members per second, and LinkedIn's reported user goal is 3 billion professionals. So what we're saying here is that it's growing and a great way for you to get connected to people in your area. Of course, it's throughout 200 countries and territories, and again, you're just gonna broaden your scope and outreach. So I can't stress LinkedIn enough, and I want you to think about it in this way. So if you are on LinkedIn as an individual, but even thinking about getting your organization, your unit on there, you're going to be connected on average with that first degree of separation to 645 people or so, right? That's 645 people that you would not just run into, run of the mill off of the street. These are going to be people that may not be your friends, but could be work associates or professionals, again, that you can connect to. Within that first degree of separation, if you are on LinkedIn, then you'll know that you have a second degree of separation, which is, who am I connected to directly? Now I'm connected to the people that are connected to that person I'm directly connected to. So that sounded crazy. Let's break it down. I'm connected to Sally. Sally is my friend on LinkedIn. Now, because I'm connected to Sally, I'm connected to all of Sally's network. And Sally has 300 friends on LinkedIn. And that's just with Sally, right? So everyone, literally think of the sphere of influence. It's really going to expand and spread out all the way up to our third degree. So how LinkedIn works is it's not just your first degree or friends that are going to be able to see the type of work that you're doing or what you're advertising. It's going to be everyone that's connected to them and then connected to them, where it's going through the feed. So I see programs and events of people that are doing things in Philadelphia to people that are doing things down in Dover or Southern Delaware. I know what's happening and things that are catching my attention. And it's a very smart platform because it's going to really, the things that are most salient to you are really going to rise to the top. So really thinking about that for hiring, think about that for programming, think about that just for connecting to other networks that may be connected to the people that you're looking to serve or bring into your organization. So I can't stress it enough. It's a great way to brand and get your programming or the university itself or unit out to others that are not aware of what you're doing, what your purpose is, and how you're servicing the community. So now as we go further, talking about connection and relationships and what can we do to bring people into the fold of our organizations, we cannot do that without speaking about bias. We cannot do that. And I'm going to explain to you why and why it matters. So what is a bias? We're saying it's a disposition toward a people, place, or thing, right? But usually the context in which we're talking about it can be in an unfair way in talking about bias. It could be a prejudice against or for or against a particular group of people. Why does this matter? It matters because we bring our biases with us everywhere we go. It's not something that we just leave at home, like, okay, I'm going to take my biases off today as I go out into the community. No, they come with us everywhere we go and in everything that we do, and they absolutely can affect the way that we work with other people. That's what's most important in understanding why these biases matter, because they can impact the way that we connect or work with others. The implications for bias now in the workplace. Workplace bias may inhibit or deter diverse groups from engaging with us. No apostrophe. Don't know why that's there. So what we want to be aware of is our own biases. One, being aware of bias in general. So right now, I'm bringing bias to your attention. I'm bringing awareness to it. Now, pushing yourself to kind of be aware of what your own biases are. And again, remembering, this is a human trait. This is not specific to just white people or just men or just Christians. No, this is specific to all humans. We all have biases, and we need to be aware of how they may impact the way that we're trying to connect to diverse populations. Understanding that our bias can be conscious, right? I know about them, I know what they are, or they can be unconscious. I'm not really aware of them until they hit closer to home. So I'm really challenging you to think outside that box and start thinking about, well, what are some of my biases towards particular groups of people, particularly if those groups of people are the ones that you're looking to bring into your organizations or bring into your programming. And so where can bias show up? Where do these biases show up? In all levels of our workplace or workforce, from hiring to retiring, to how we promote, to how we connect and collaborate, to the way that we develop our employees, or even developing our programming. Biases are going to show up in all facets of our work life. Everywhere you look, everything you do, a bias can show up. And so it's something to be aware of. And what I want you guys to know and to remember in this area. So what are some of the things that can contribute to my bias in the workplace? The first piece in that is going to be task. We associate certain jobs with certain types of people. So when I gave you that example earlier, let's say you're doing a cooking program or a healthy eating program. A task bias, right, is saying, oh, I need to look for women because women are always doing the cooking for their families. Even if that may be true in one event, we cannot say it's a one size fits all. That's what we need to break down. We can't associate certain people with certain jobs or certain races with certain positions and so on and so forth. That's one way that we can trigger our unconscious bias. When we're looking at numbers, so when we're looking at a group like job applicants, so I have a stack of resumes, right? We're more likely to use biases in trying to analyze people in the outlying demographics. So what's the outlying demographics? Demographics that are not like ourselves. They're outliers. They're not the same as us. We're the same in terms of being humans, right? So I really want to connect us more than we are trying to separate one another from each other. But if they don't look like us, if they're not like us, this is when we can really fall into that unconscious bias and kind of go into a rut of standardized thinking, right? So trying to look outside of that. Clarity, when we have, we're lacking information, our brains tend to fill in the gaps of what we expect from people. Again, that is how bias is going to work. We don't know much about a population, so what do? We can often rely on the bias or the myth that we have about groups of people. And the last is perceiver. So what this means here, depending on what your emotional state is, if you're overly tired or busy or cranky or upset, right? You have a heightened emotional state, this can keep you distracted from the unconscious bias. So again, you kind of just go into that routine of how you work with certain groups of people. So something, again, to be aware of when we're working with others. And so I want to speak to specific types of bias as it relates to working with others and how it can affect us in the workplace. And the first piece in this, the first type of bias that we often see happen with others is that affinity bias, okay? And so this is the type of bias when we see someone that's like us, we tend to warm up to them because we say, oh, you're like me. So I get that. Perfect example. Let's say you're on a search committee or you're interviewing someone and you find out that they went to your alma mater. You're saying, oh, you're a blue hen? I'm a blue hen. Oh my goodness, do you remember such and such, right? Automatically, you're already warming yourself up to that person because you're saying, you are like me. So I feel more comfortable with you. That's affinity bias. And that can happen with race, it can happen with gender, it can happen with sexuality, it can happen with the types of neighborhoods that we live in, where almost we give that advantage to people that we deem are like us. But this can be a huge breakdown in trying to connect with people that are not like us. Another example, type of bias, it's called the halo effect. Everything about that person is good because you like them. So you've probably seen this before, and you might have other colleagues that are saying, I don't understand how they don't see that Jim, I hope there's not a Jim out there, Jim, because we're not really talking about you and you're probably fantastic, but Jim makes a lot of mistakes. Jim does this or does that, but somehow the boss thinks that because the boss likes Jim, Jim can do no wrong. The same can happen again with us when we're working with others in the community. Perception bias. So this is saying we form stereotypes and assumptions about certain groups that make it impossible to make an objective judgment about members of those groups. That perception bias can really break us down in the sense where we may be saying, you fill in the blank with whatever group may fall into this category. Oh, we're not going to advertise to this group of people because they don't show up for this or they don't do this particular thing. So there's no need for us to involve them. That's a perception bias. When we move into confirmation bias now, this is a tendency for people to seek information that confirms our pre-existing beliefs or assumptions, right? So, oh, okay, there goes those people doing what they do. They always do that. Yep, because that's what those people do. Confirmation bias, right? I'm confirming my own bias in people because of an exception or because of a particular case or instance. And we don't want to do that. The last kind of bias in here that I want to bring to your attention as it relates to working with groups is groupthink. And so this occurs when people try too hard to fit in to a particular group by mimicking others or holding back their own thoughts and opinions. So instead of speaking up, and this again can happen in your working teams when you guys are working on your marketing or you're working on your advertising, and there may be an individual on your team that wants to speak up and say, hey, you know what? I don't really think that's a great idea, but they don't because they don't want to be ostracized by the group, so they keep it to themselves. So we tend to go along with what the majority is thinking. So challenging you, whoever you are, to think outside of that and push yourself to working outside of that comfort zone. So these are types of biases that are going to show up or can show up in our work. So what are some of these takeaways that I want you to be aware of? What is the synopsis of this entire workshop? I'm going to take a quick pause because I see 2 comments and I want to make sure that they're not for the entire group here. Yes, I will absolutely share the presentation as a resource, so I can email this to Allison or to Jen to share with you all. So please, you can keep this as a PDF. I will share this, and then I have a private conversation, which I'll get to a little bit later. So the takeaways in this. Be open to difference, okay? This is huge. Just be open. You don't have to be the expert in everything and every race and every ethnicity and every generational age gap. You're not gonna be an expert in all of these areas. I'm not even an expert in all of these areas, okay? And it's a continuum. You're constantly learning. But what you can do is be open to change. Be open to different ways of learning and communicating and connecting to others. Being uncomfortable is okay and will shift with time. So when we're working with groups, organizations, populations that we're not typically accustomed to servicing, there may be some discomfort in that. And that's okay, right? That doesn't make you a bad person at all. That actually makes you a fantastic person, and being aware of that. But know that you will get more comfortable with time. So being uncomfortable is okay. I like to say to people, be comfortable with being uncomfortable, okay? That's a great philosophy that can guide you in doing this work. Try new avenues to recruit diverse participants and employees. So if you're looking for something new, okay, you can't keep doing the same old thing that you've been doing. You have to go outside of that comfort zone. You have to expand or reach out to more than who you've been working with originally. Ask for help if you need it. So what we mean here, and I'm going to have those resources in the next slide to show you, if you have questions, if you have concerns, myself, Adam Foley, who also works in this office, we are absolutely open to you guys giving us a call, shooting us an email. I have a circumstance, a situation, and I would like your advice on how I can handle this or how I can engage this. Ask for help, because there are people here that are willing to walk with you, talk with you through these scenarios and circumstances. And then lastly, but not least, lead with integrity, empathy, and genuineness. Listen, again, no one is going to be a diversity expert, okay? But you can be a human expert, which is saying, I'm going to lead with integrity. I'm going to be myself. I'm going to be empathetic and trying to connect with others. And I'm going to be genuine in the services and the programming or the hiring that I'm trying to get out to my community. You do those things, okay? You are moving in the direction of really being able to capture a broader audience in the work that you're doing, or capture more diverse employees within your hiring. And so I want to leave this for you again, because not many people are aware of this unit on campus, but there is a recruitment and development office, as I mentioned earlier, that is growing as we speak. And Jared Arpoli is the manager of this department. And Lori Colville is also one of the senior recruiters for our campus. So if you have questions on how do I get my information out to some of these diverse organizations and populations, they absolutely are a resource in helping connect you to some of these organizations or some of these people. So please keep them in mind. And naturally, I am also a resource for you guys as well. So please feel free to email me, give me a call. I don't have my number on here, but 8736, give me a holler, and we can talk about this a little bit further and give you more information. So I'll go ahead and stop there. Are there any questions, anything that I can expand on right now in the last final minutes of this presentation? I think there is one. Let me just connect. No problem, Maria. Thank you so much. And I will be emailing, no problem, Nancy. Thank you so much. I will be emailing you guys this PowerPoint slide for you to keep for your file. So I'll send this to Allison and Jen once we disconnect from this presentation. But I hope this was helpful to you guys in some way, fashion, or form. And again, if I can follow up on anything, please feel free to reach back out to me. And thank you guys for your time. I look forward to the next time.
Thank you, Jennifer, so much. Yeah, I took a bunch of notes. So I think we need to, I'm going to look into LinkedIn more. I have a personal profile on there that I haven't updated recently. So I need to look at that and look at the groups that I'm connected to and how we're using it. So I think it's a conversation for us to have as a group. And, you know, I got a lot of good notes that I took. So
excellent.
We'll be back in March. So you're the feature of our March 1st Friday as well. So she'll then talk about managing diverse groups. So things for us to keep in mind. So once we get them there, you know, keeping them and making sure we're using all the appropriate techniques. So if anyone has any other questions, I see a lot of thank yous and great informations in the chat box. So
no problem.
All right, well, I hope everyone has a good Friday. Remember, please get your 2018 plans of work submitted and reviewed by your supervisors. I see a lot of them are green on my end, so that means they're finalized, but there are still some yellows out there, so remind your reviewer and approver to get in there and get it final. And if you're still in what I see as the pinkish red color, that means you have not submitted your plan for 2018 yet. So we need to get that done because we're now in February and it's time for us to start reporting things. So you've got a whole month of January you could get in right now. So thank you, everybody, and have a great weekend and go Eagles.
Yes. Bye, everyone.
Bye.